Hey everybody, it's Klein, and today we're doing a thing I've wanted to do for a long time, which is start a playthrough slash walkthrough type thing of Final Fantasy 15, a game that I really love. This game is near and dear to my heart. I've beat it once before, and I've beat all of the DLC for it that is currently out at the time of this recording, which is to say the first wave of DLC. I have not beat Comrades because it's garbage. But otherwise, I've beat everything. I have not, as of yet, beat all of the optional bosses in the DLC or in the main game. I'm working on that. At some point, I plan to have out little nice, neat guides for beating all those optional bosses, because they can be a pain in the ass. I'm not going for a 100% run, but I do plan to do a majority of the game, including most side quests, save for super bosses like Omega Weapon and the Angelus Mech, which I will not be doing. So, you know. Anyway, yeah, let's start the game. We won't be playing on New Game Plus because that won't exactly make sense. I do have all of the outfits from the DLC unlocked, but I won't be and the weapons, but I won't be using them until after those DLC take place. Just for story reasons and for showing off, how good those weapons are at the time they are introduced, and also because I feel like using them straight off the bat really fucks up a normal playthrough, because they are severely overpowered early game and will rip through enemies like wet tissue. I also have a significant portion of the DLC and pre-order bonuses. I will probably be using those, just because those are accessible from the beginning of the game for the majority of players. If you're purchasing the Royal Edition, which I'm assuming you are. If you aren't, for super bosses and that sort of thing, I'll probably have a guide that doesn't use them, although they will become inconsequential about a quarter of the way through the game as better stuff comes up. But yeah, that's enough of me rambling at the start screen, I think. Let's start one of my favorite games. On normal, because I'm not a little bitch. The tutorial offers... You know what? I know how to play the game, but for your sake, let's do some tutorial stuff. I realized I said I was going to stop rambling for 20 minutes, but apparently that was a lie because I forgot the game had this strange tutorial thing. And there's our main boy Noctis and his weird Phoenix Fox psychic text pet Carbuncle. Hey there, Noct. That's what he sounds like. It's so good to see you again. You remember my name, right? You gave it to me after all. A cactar emoji. Here's the old training room in the world of your dreams. I'm gonna teach you the ins and outs of this world to help you along your journey. Why, thanks, Carbuncle. I appreciate it. Yeah, you know what? Let's do a lore guide first. I feel like the lore in this game can get a little bit confusing. A lot of people complained when it launched that the story didn't really make a lot of sense, which is true, although it's partially due to the sort of lack of lore, unless you go looking for it, or you do this lore tutorial type thing. But this is, or you watch the Kingsglaive movie and all of its additional content. And a lot of people complained about that too, that there was additional content that you had to see to understand the story. And I actually completely disagree with that. I don't think that you had to watch the additional content. You don't have to watch King's Glaive. You don't have to play King's Combat or whatever the hell that brawler was called to understand the story. I know this because I haven't fucking seen them. Mostly because I pirated King's Glaive and I watched the first 15 minutes of that movie, and it was the hottest garbage I have ever seen, and that is coming from someone who absolutely adores this game. It has some fun set pieces and really nice visuals, but the writing is so bad I wanted to die right then and there. I haven't played any of the additional content that was released, so not the mobile version of the games. I haven't played King's Quest. I seriously don't remember what that brawler was called, and this is going to bother me for the rest of the video, but that's not the point. I have seen the anime Brotherhood, which is free on Crunchyroll, and I highly suggest you go watch it. Not for story reasons, but because it really strengthens the bond of the main characters, and it provides some additional character development that I really feel fleshes out the characters and makes them feel a little more interesting than they are in the base game. That's not to say that they aren't. I quite like them in the base game, but it just adds, you know, a little bit of spice, a little bit of variety. Let's get going, huh? So yeah, when you're done, just let me know. Alright, I will. Can I? I can't. So, with the Royal Edition, what I was trying to do there was I was trying to initiate first-person mode, which is a feature that was added in the Royal Edition of the game. So if you have the Royal Edition, or you bought the Royal Pack upgrade, you got a plethora of new features, some of which I actually consider pretty essential to the game, namely the new end game area. But it also came with the somewhat questionable first-person mode, which, as it sounds, is a first-person mode akin to the GTA 5 first-person mode that was added in the next-gen consoles. It's interesting, and it's really fun for like looking at scenery and taking pictures and that sort of thing, but for combat, it is hot garbage because this game's combat is so hectic and has you flipping around and doing all sorts of shit and teleporting, and none of that really translates well to first-person combat. The way you would normally initiate that is by, on PS4 at least, which is the system I'm playing on, is by hitting both of the sticks, so L3 and R3, at the same time, which puts you in a first-person mode, and that's what I was trying to do just then, except it doesn't work, because I'm clicking the sticks repeatedly and nothing's happening. That was a weird side tangent. We're gonna go look at the paintings, which is how you learn the lore, because I don't fucking know. The land of Eos. Our story takes place in the lands of Eos. At present, the world is divided between two warring states. Controlling a majority of the world's lands is the militarily mighty Niflheim, an aggressively expanding imperial war machine. The kingdom of Lucis continues to resist the Empire's advance with magic. The crown city of Insomnia stands proud as the kingdom's last bastion, but the Empire has already made inroads on the outlying territories, including the primary regions of Lead, Diskai, and Clean? I've never heard anyone pronounce that name in-game, and therefore have absolutely no clue how you're supposed to say it. But yeah, that's the setting of the game. It's pretty interesting, I guess. Daemons, it's demons, but I like saying daemons because I'm a edgy fuck, I guess. Demons and night. Eos is plagued by hordes of demons, vicious nocturnal creatures of various forms that strike fear into the hearts of even the most seasoned hunters. Hunters being, well, hunters. They're people who are like professionally, they're like witchers. Witchers is really the best description. They fight animals, in quotations, which include, you know, dragons and shit, so monsters. Demons are the denizens of night, and the more predatory among them are drawn to the roads after dark. People now dread the setting of the sun for fear of what monsters might be lurking in the shadows. In recent years, the demons have grown in number, while the nights have grown longer. The correlation between the two phenomena is yet unproven, but the scientists persist in their search for a link. So while we're just out and about, looking around, I'd like to take this moment to point out that I have not gotten through all of the dungeons in the game. There is one dungeon that still eludes me, and that is Castle Mark Tower, which is widely considered to be one of the more difficult dungeons in the game that's not a post-game dungeon. And while I was playing the original game, it scared the shit out of me, and I just never ended up doing it because it was incredibly difficult. Everything else I got, I'm pretty sure at least. I got all the royal arms except for the one that's in Castle Mark Tower, so, you know. Anyway, onto the god painting. The Six and the Oracle. Old tales tell of 6 gods who have stood watch over Eos since antiquity. It is said that they now slumber, conserving their strength and waiting to awaken upon the coming of a plague known as the Star Scourge. She most pure of faith is the Oracle, a daughter in the line of those sent to commune with the Six. Blessed by the astral gods, she calls forth the power of Eos to heal those who are suffering and afflicted. Her devotion to helping all those in need has inspired reverence for her among people all over the world. I can read, I promise. So, an interesting fact about this painting in particular, is the Oracle, as portrayed by this strange winged woman, was actually not always the Oracle, or at least this art was not used to represent the Oracle at all times. Originally, this art represented the creator of the gods, who I'm almost 100% certain was also named Eos. Yeah, she was the creator of the gods, and this linked in with Final Fantasy XV's sister series, 13 and Type O, which together would have formed the Fabula Nova Crystallis series. Now, this was also supposed to have several other games that either never came out or were never even announced. And so the storyline that was supposed to be formed between these 3 games and their spin-off series was sort of broken. And so the Fabula Nova Crystallis series sort of fell apart, and they removed 15 from that series for the most part. And so most references to things like Foul C and Lassie and things from Final Fantasy 13 and Type O are completely removed, but you can find remnants of this previous game throughout the world in stuff like this picture of the Oracle. Also, as a side note, I'm going to refer to this game as Versus 13 sometimes when I'm talking about its development, and that, for those not in the know, is what this game was called back when it was called when it was part of the Fabula Nova Crystallis series. It was called Final Fantasy Versus 13, and it was going to be a Final Fantasy 13 spin-off. It was very similar in style to this. Trailers actually came out. There are trailers out there that you can see of what this game used to be like, and if you go watch those trailers and come back and then play this game or watch this series, and you pay attention, you will see hints of the influence of Final Fantasy Versus 13 all over this game, because, you know, they were partway through development when they changed the name and removed it from the Crystallis series, and so they didn't want to, you know, just throw everything out in the trash and start over, so a lot of the stuff got reused, including characters, play styles, weapons, assets, all sorts of things got reused. It's actually really interesting, and it's something I enjoy hearing about and noticing. There's even some dungeons that are theorized to have been from early on in the game's development when it was still Versus 13, but we will get to that in time, specifically in the post-game. And now for the final picture, this one. The magic of the Lucii. The crystal is the divine cornerstone of the kingdom of Lucis. The stone has a will of its own and channels its sacred power through the ring of the Lucii to the monarch who bears it. The magic... Oh, yeah, I don't need to read that again. Huh. Monarchs in the line of Lucis have an innate ability to conjure magical weapons. A handful of close attendants are also afforded access to the selfsame power. The magical barrier known as the Wall has long kept the Empire at bay, and thereby maintained the peace, yet not entirely without struggle. Sustaining the Wall imposes an immense physical burden upon the king, but to let it fall for even a moment would be to invite total annihilation. God damn it, I keep getting tongue-tied, I think is the phrase. So that's all the lore in here. It's pretty interesting. I kind of rambled on for a little bit there, and I apologize for that. But there's just a lot to talk about with this game. A lot of people wouldn't agree with me there, but there really is actually a significant amount of interesting lore tidbits and things about development that I just love talking about.